All right, well, you're here again, Legacy of Leaders with Jamar Suber. And as you know, I talk to great entrepreneurs about their contribution to the community, but we also talk about their passion and inspiration. And today is no different. I'm here with Doc and Trish Farris, let me get it right, Farris, Spread Oak Farm to Table. Welcome to Legacy of Leaders.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Good. Man, entrepreneurship, what do you think about it?
I love it. I think that it is. I think it's a life that you have to be called into. You got to know that you got the stomach and the heart for it.
Yeah.
But I think there's an enormous amount of benefits that come from it, and we're so passionate about it in our home that when we talk to our 5-year-old about what are you going to do when you grow up, I want to work for the bank. I'm like, no, you're going to own the bank. You're going to run the, we talk about it all the time because we know the benefits that come from it. And let's face it, the massive amount or the most amount of impact that the marketplace has is coming from those CEOs and entrepreneurs.
That's right. That's right. There are a lot of people who are in business because it's a good idea. But tell us about Spread Oak Farm to Table.
So that's a great point. And I think, first of all, there's two things that you're going to do in life. You're either going to chase opportunities or you're going to pursue callings. And lots of people are chasing opportunities because they think they can get rich quick, they're going to make a lot of money, they're going to build this big dream life. But they're a flash in the pan. It doesn't last because it requires a lot of you. If you're pursuing a calling, you have a different level of conviction. Your roots are put down more deeply. And when it comes to Spread Oak Farm to Table and the things that we're doing there, at the ranch, it really is about the calling of bettering people's life, making their life better, making them healthier, making their kids healthier, providing a venue and a process through which and by which they can make that possible. And so it's not that we're just chasing opportunity, we want to just make a bunch of money selling beef. It's that we really have a calling to make people's lives better. And I think that is the fundamental difference between those who really do well in entrepreneurship and those who get started and go, this ain't for me.
As entrepreneurs, how do we know the difference between a good idea and a calling?
Well, for me, I do it, I call it the points of confirmation, right? So a lot of things that God calls us into are going to seem counterintuitive and counterproductive because we know his economy is a whole lot different than the world's economy. But I think it really comes down to the peace that I have in me. I have a peace. I know that I know that I know. I can't. If I don't do this, I'll be in active disobedience. Like I have to do this, and as opposed to this looks good and I like to chase that and can make a bunch of money at that. Right? It's something internally, and I know that this is something I'm called to do.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I think when it comes to knowing whether it's a good idea or a calling, sometimes you don't know until you hit your first obstacle. And if your immediate response is to quit, then maybe it was just a good idea that now maybe isn't looking like such a great idea. But when it's a calling, you just dig in deeper, right? And for Spread Oak Farm to Table, if this were about making money and this were an easy choice, we wouldn't be sitting here with you today, because I can tell you there are a lot of obstacles that we have to overcome constantly. When you're dealing with live animals, it's not all calculated. We don't have things just sitting on a shelf that we can decide to sell off at some point. There's an art and there's a fine process that goes into it. We have, our cowboys are out there, they're looking at the cattle, they're culling them, they're seeing which ones are healthy, which ones are going to be prime, and then they're watching them to see when they're ready to go to market, right? With that really fine spot so that the meat's not too fatty, but it's also not too lean. We're looking at all these things. There's a lot of, and cattle get sick, and so how are we taking care of them to make sure that, if it rains more, they still have the proper amount of nutrition, their feet don't start to rot, right? Like, these animals have to be taken care of, they have to be watched and nurtured, and so there's a lot of things that go into this, and it's timely and it's cost consuming, and there's a lot of costs that come out of nowhere. So if this were just something that we thought was a good idea, we would have quit a long time ago and we wouldn't be sitting here. But we're passionate about this because we do believe that food that we eat impacts our overall health and well-being, and we want to provide that peace to other families that we've experienced from consuming it ourselves.
So Trish, tell me this: why should someone buy farm to table versus just going to a grocery store?
I want to be careful not to talk negatively about other companies out there, and I know there's a lot of really great ones, but for us personally, again, it came down to the peace of mind of knowing exactly where our food was coming from, where it's been, what it's been exposed to, and what's been put inside it. And so we have a peace of mind knowing farm to table that we literally can look out in the fields, can look in these gorgeous pastures that they're roaming, and know that is the meat that we're going to consume and that we're consuming on a regular basis. We've experienced a difference in our bodies, and so we now can say with 100% confidence it makes a huge difference to your overall health and well-being.
Wow, that's amazing. I need to close, but it's been a pleasure having the two of you on your show.
Thank you.
So tell me, I heard we can bring our families out to the farm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do we do that? How can we find out more?
So if you go to our website, Spread Oak Farm to Table, T-O spelled out, you can order the meat and you can schedule a pickup date to come out there. So we do it, it's usually once a month. We have a Saturday available that you can come out. You can also send me an email, Trish, T-R-I-S-H, at spreadoakfarmtotable.com, and set up a time. We'd love to have you out.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, there it is. Again, I'm your host, Jamar Suber, and this is Legacy of Leaders. Have a great day.